So the OnePlus 12 was the surprise package of last year, putting more pressure on the OnePlus 13 to actually bring something new to the table. But how do these two devices stack up? And is there an option for you to go out and pick up the OnePlus 12 now it's at a discount? Because I do think it's still a good device. Well, let's get into the details and find out just how they compare. Hey you, yes you, I'm asking you politely, please, how about subscribing to the channel here and becoming a legend and joining our community of like-minded Android nerds? I'd really love to have you join, but yeah, let's get back to the video. So after a successful predecessor, which sounds weird to say out loud, the OnePlus 13 has a tough pair of boots to fill this time around. BBK, the company that owns OnePlus, has listened to lots of the criticisms and improved Oxygen OS first and foremost, but a few common complaints about the OnePlus 12 have also been addressed this year with the OnePlus 13. And right up top, I will say, nobody who owns a OnePlus 12 should even think of ditching their device in favour of the OnePlus 13 unless you have some major problems or you've broken it. Instead, by comparing this duo, we're going to ascertain if there is some value in looking at the now discounted older model, which I do think is a banger still in its own right, and still a solid buy some 12 months after release. From far away, the OnePlus 12 and the OnePlus 13, they look almost identical, get them a bit closer though, and although they do share a similar design language, some important alterations have been made, as I noted, to address some of the frustrations people have had with flagship OnePlus phones for a number of years actually at this stage. And as the Oppo Find X8 Pro is the basis for the OnePlus 13, it means that the newer device has a slightly, or well, it actually has quite a large, flatter overall profile. It's not completely flat, but a lot of the curves have been shaved and adjusted to just make it an overall smaller phone, despite having a still pretty large footprint. While you might have a different opinion, I have to say the improved shape does make the OnePlus 13 more comfortable, and it also conversely makes it lighter even when in a case. Naturally, the biggest change is the display shape, aside from those side bezels. The short story is that the display itself is flat, but it does has very, very tiny curves leading into the frame edges, so there is a slight curve there that might be exposed. This though is still a drastic shift away from the side curves that will have plagued OnePlus flagship tier phones at least since the OnePlus 8 Pro was launched way back in 2020. I think if you hate the OnePlus 12 display, although it is a good display in its own right, you'll love the OnePlus 13's flat, usable space at the front of it. There's also an improved ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner on the OnePlus 13 for faster and more accurate unlocks. I will say that the optical scanner on the OnePlus 12 is still really good, and while the display itself is improved, the visuals, they're practically identical, at least eye to eye. These screens still get super bright with a theoretical maximum of 4,500 nits. You probably won't hit that very often, but there is really little to separate their undoubted quality. These are two of the best phone screens I've ever used, so that means you should just expect a top-tier experience. They're both QHD+, so 120Hz, LTPOs, which means they should drop from 1 to 120Hz in different scenarios. They're just great AMOLED screens. One thing to note though is that OnePlus has actually ditched Gorilla Glass Victus on the OnePlus 13 this year in favour of their own Crystal Shield Super Ceramic Glass. Really terrible name, but it's not clear to us just how much tougher this is, but they have made some claims that it is tougher than Victus, but again, you're not going to put your phone screen in the way of damage to test that out anyway. Also, after years of avoiding official IP ratings for a long period of time on their old flagships, the OnePlus 13 has decided to go one better now that they have one, which is an IP69 rating, which technically means it's practically fully protected from dust and water ingress, but it also means it can withstand jets of hot water. While the OnePlus 12 only has that IP65 rating, it can only handle a little spray or splash before running into trouble. So if you care about water or water ingress, water and dust ingress, the OnePlus 13 might actually be one of the best on the market this time around, as we've not seen an IP69 rated phone, at least in the flagship space. So as you may be well aware, Oxygen OS 15 is now available for OnePlus 12, and we've lauded it. Actually, it's a big an improvement over those previous builds. It also ships pre-installed on the OnePlus 13. As I say, the experience has improved year over year, and I have to say it's a breath of fresh air compared to the early Color OS conversion, which was full of problems and full of like hangovers from the fact that they were making two separate versions and trying to shoehorn them in. The day-to-day experience is identical though on both these phones, as you're even getting all of those AI features back ported, so you don't actually need to upgrade to get a lot of those new functions. We've been talking about the various changes, but one potentially tangible omission from the OnePlus 13 is the enhanced cooling system from its predecessor. This could make a difference when doing things like playing games for a long period, but the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip in the OnePlus 13 should actually manage power output more efficiently anyway out of the box. So along with that new silicon carbon battery, which we'll get into a little bit later, it should handle heat a little bit better than the OnePlus 12. There is an overall 25 to 30% jump in performance across the board when moving from the older model to the newer model, and especially as this is last year's best phone, it has a very good base for all kinds of usage scenarios. Obviously though, gaming stands out for the OnePlus 13, but I will say the OnePlus 12 it's definitely no slouch. It's still one of the best out there. It's a beast. It has all but the latest chipset, including that fast UFS 4.0 storage and bags of RAM, meaning it should actually hang in there pretty well with most of the flagship phones coming out this year. And without knowing which phone is which, I have to say it's almost impossible to tell them apart when you're using them side by side, not something that many of you will do. A major reason for that is that each flagship OnePlus phone is just stuffed to the gills with the highest end internals, and because of this decision, you should have a really good experience with either phone for a long time into the future. So as noted, the OnePlus 13 is equipped with a substantial 6,000 mAh silicon carbon battery, which is around about a 10% upgrade over the OnePlus 12's already sizable 5,400 mAh capacity. One of the most impressive things about this battery tech though is that it actually allows for this high capacity without increasing the device's size. So the OnePlus 13 is thinner than the OnePlus 12 despite having an even larger internal cell. And that's not all though, as it's said to offer improved thermal properties, so your phone won't get as hot while charging at high speeds, which both of these phones have 100-watt charging via wire, and it just means you'll be able to handle more cycles, and therefore the phone should last longer into the future. It's just a win-win in terms of actual hardware design, and in some cases you can easily get 2 days with a single charge on this phone because of that ultra-large battery and improvements with the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset. As I said, both of these phones do support 100-watt wired charging with a SuperVOOC charger and 50-watt wireless charging, ensuring super quick recharge times. It takes around about 40 minutes to go from 0 to 100%. It is worth noting though that you don't get a charger in the box with the OnePlus 13 in global regions, which is an annoying change, so you will have to go out and fork out extra money to go and get one unless you have one lying around anyway. Sadly as well, there is no Qi 2 magnetic wireless charging on this newer model, despite the fact that a lot of phones were supposed to come with that this year. You'll need to get a supported MagSafe case, which OnePlus does sell, to get 50-watt wired charging speeds with an additional charger that comes with a built-in fan that just slaps to the back of it. But again, I don't think this is something most people should pick up anyway. So cameras have historically been a weak area for most OnePlus phones in previous years, but the OnePlus 12 was a surprisingly solid and at times excellent smartphone camera, especially with that Hasselblad tuning baked in. I think things are a little interesting when we start to compare the OnePlus 13, as the new phone has some notable and important downgrades versus the OnePlus 12. So you still get the same, more or less the same main 50 megapixel camera. There is a new 50 megapixel ultra wide on the 13 and a 3x telephoto lens. On paper, that does look better than the OnePlus 12's 50 megapixel main camera, 48 megapixel ultra wide, and its 64 megapixel 3x optical zoom lens. And that is basically the only actual option that separates this duo. This telephoto lens on the OnePlus 12 from last year is a lot better at 6x zoom and above than the 2025 flagship, because the 50 megapixel telephoto on the OnePlus 13 is a pretty substantial downgrade in a lot of ways. In certain scenarios, I have to say pictures will look identical from both of these camera systems, but there are some areas where tuning gives you drastically different photos. Not sure if this is something related to Oxygen OS 15 on the newer device, but things like HDR can kick in a little too harshly on the OnePlus 13, but we're hopeful that updates will resolve some of the quirks of the camera setup once these devices end up in public hands, that is. Complaints aside, there are dynamic range improvements on the OnePlus 13 that do unveil details in photos that you might not get with the OnePlus 12. All of the shooting modes are practically identical here as well, but you will see a noticeable improvement in the video recording quality on the OnePlus 13 over the OnePlus 12. Overall though, the quality is just great on both these phones, and it's really nice to see OnePlus having two devices back to back with great camera systems. So to circle back right to the start of this video, and as we stated right at the top, I do think nobody who has the OnePlus 12 should even consider ditching their phone in favour of the OnePlus 13. If you're using an older phone though, an older OnePlus device, and want an incredible package for a discounted price point, I actually think the OnePlus 12 has to be a contender for one of the best bang for your buck Android phones as of last year, as it is this year. Now we're going to start to see substantial discounts. It's still one of the best phones you can buy, despite having a newer iteration to contend with, and an impressive iteration at that. It even surpasses the OnePlus 13 in those areas, namely zoom quality of the camera, which I think is important if you do take a lot of photos. The OnePlus 13 itself is a great handset and one of the best new Android phone launches, period. Its high-end hardware makes it a no-brainer for anyone who wants the latest and greatest from an Android phone, but we actually do have more OEMs set to release their own 2025 flagship phones before we can really assess where it ranks in the overall kind of table, that is. Basically, what we're trying to say is it's too early to say where it stands on the best of 2025 totem, as it's practically the only device that's available to go out and buy. Even so, I'd have to say the year is off to a really, really strong start. And if you want a OnePlus phone, well, you're catered to very well, no matter which you prefer and what your budget is. Maybe this is a sign that Android is back. It's so back, in fact. Let me know what you think in the comment sections below, though. We are in for a wild ride this year, and I'm totally here for it. Cheers for watching, though, and I will speak to you later.